Rain poured like the sky was crying for her. Maya stood outside the cafe door, her old umbrella trembling against the wind as she looked at her reflection on the glass. Tired eyes, cracked lipstick, a woman who had forgotten what it felt like to be loved. Inside, laughter echoed, and couples toasted to love. She wasn't one of them. Not tonight. Not anymore. But fate, mischievous and gentle, was watching. Because inside that same cafe, at the very table she'd soon clean, sat Ethan Cole, a man whose wealth could buy cities but not peace. He stared at the empty seat across from him where his date had just stormed off, calling him, emotionless. And in that moment, as Maya walked over with a polite smile, saying softly, "Are you okay, sir? You look like you could use a friend." He realized, maybe he did. That was the night two lonely souls met, one drowning in bills, the other drowning in silence, not knowing they were about to change each other's lives forever. Sparkles Chapter 1, The Night of the Bad Blind Date. Ethan Cole didn't believe in love anymore. At 32, the world called him a genius, a self-made CEO of a billion-dollar tech empire. But behind the crisp suits, luxury cars, and headlines, there was just a man who woke up every morning in an empty penthouse and went to sleep listening to the echo of his own breathing. Tonight, his best friend had convinced him to try a blind date. "You need someone to soften you up," they said. "Someone normal." But the woman who showed up wasn't interested in him, she was interested in what he owned. By the time dessert came, she had stormed out, insulted that he didn't want to talk about his net worth. Ethan sat still, half embarrassed, half relieved. He was used to it, people leaving once they couldn't find the price tag on his soul. That's when Maya entered. She wasn't supposed to be there for anything other than cleaning. She worked 2 jobs, a waitress by day, cafe cleaner by night. Life hadn't been kind to her, but she carried herself with quiet dignity. Her 7-year-old son, Liam, was waiting at home with an empty stomach and a bedtime story that would have to wait again. When she saw Ethan sitting alone, she hesitated. He didn't look like a man people pitied, but like someone who needed someone to see him. Not the money, not the fame. Just him. "Rough night?" she asked gently, collecting the untouched coffee cup. He looked up, caught off guard. "You could say that." She smiled faintly. "Don't worry. People who walk away usually aren't meant to stay." Something about her words, so simple, so honest, cut through the loneliness he'd been burying for years. They talked for a few minutes, small things, random stories, soft laughter in between. When she finally said goodbye, he found himself watching her leave, the way she tucked her hair behind her ear, the tired grace in her walk, the way she didn't know he'd be thinking about her all night. That was the first time in years Ethan Cole smiled for no reason. Sparkles Chapter 2, When the CEO Fell for the Single Mom. The next morning, Maya didn't expect to see him again. But when she got to the cafe, there he was, in the same seat, coffee in hand, pretending to read a newspaper. He greeted her like they were old friends. "Morning, Maya," he said, his voice carrying warmth she hadn't felt in years. She blinked. "How do you know my name?" "You were wearing your name tag last night," he said with a small grin. "Besides, you gave me the best advice I've heard in a long time." From that day on, Ethan kept coming back, every morning, every evening. Sometimes he ordered coffee, sometimes just sat there working quietly. But every time, his eyes found hers. They talked about dreams, struggles, her son, his loneliness, but not once did he mention who he really was. For Maya, he was just Ethan, the quiet man with kind eyes. For Ethan, she was the only person who made him feel human again. Weeks passed. Their bond deepened. Liam, her little boy, soon met him too, running up to him at the park and calling him, Mr. Coffee Man. Ethan laughed more that day than he had in years. But fate, as always, tested love's sincerity. One evening, Maya saw Ethan on TV, Ethan Cole, CEO of Cole Tech Industries, one of the richest men in the country. Her heart broke. She felt small, foolish. She thought he was just like everyone else who pitied her. When he came by that night, she avoided his eyes. "You lied," she whispered, voice shaking. "You made me believe you were one of us." Ethan took a deep breath. "I never lied, Maya. I just wanted someone to know me before they knew my name." Tears fell down her cheeks. "You don't belong in my world. My life's a mess." He stepped closer, eyes soft. Then let me help clean it. You fixed my heart when I didn't even know it was broken. Let me return the favor. Maya tried to turn away, but his sincerity broke through her walls. For once, she didn't see a CEO. She saw the same lonely man from that rainy night, still searching for warmth. Months later, things changed. Ethan secretly funded Liam's school, helped Maya open her own small bakery, and stood beside her every step, not as a savior, but as a partner. When she finally told him, "You didn't have to do all this," he smiled and replied, "I didn't do it because I had to. I did it because I love you both." Heart epilogue, emotional ending that leaves a message. A year later, Maya stood outside the same cafe, holding Ethan's hand as little Liam ran ahead. The place that once symbolized struggle was now where everything began. As the rain started again, Ethan opened the same umbrella she once held. "Funny," she said, smiling, "how life brings you back to where love first found you." He looked at her, the woman who changed his world, and whispered, "No, Maya, you didn't walk me out of a bad date that night. You walked me into my forever."